Conversation, follow the podcast today.
Welcome back. Saving money probably won't happen if the Department of Homeland Security modernizes its information technology system. But the modernization effort will pay other dividends that might matter more. Kevin Walsh is Director of Information Technology and Cybersecurity at the Government Accountability Office. He testified recently about DHS's IT posture at a Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs subcommittee hearing. Kevin, welcome. The money quote from you at that hearing was, IT modernization may not be a cost-saving endeavor. You had a follow-on point to the committee, though, about that. What was that follow-on point, and why is it important?
So well, first, thank you for having me on the show. The follow-on point is that there's this common misconception that legacy systems, when we modernize them, we're going to save all this money. And that's not always true, as you heard. What we do get is better security, better functionality, and more efficient systems. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to figure out what the right balance is between investing those additional funds and security, efficiency and modernization.
Where is DHS now in its journey? That was one of the themes that I took away, that the DHS officials that testified claim progress. Do you see progress that DHS is making? So
DHS and the entire government are in the midst of a shift. For a long time, we have gone with the waterfall approach to development, which is a big, monolithic, multi-year endeavor across what winds up being many administrations. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, the government winds up with excess costs coming in late, and maybe not all the functionality that was initially promised. Mm-hmm. So we're moving away from that, though. The new paradigm, the new development methodology is an incremental methodology or an agile methodology, which emphasizes developing functionality in shorter bursts. The advantage of that is if the contractor winds up failing spectacularly, the government actually has something to take away from the effort. Mm-hmm. You also, if you see failures early on, you can cut it off before we are billions of dollars in debt and years behind schedule in some cases, as some of DHS's systems are. So you asked how DHS's progress is going. Right now, DHS is in the midst of that shift. Mm. They have moved many programs to this new methodology, and they are struggling with some of their older programs. In that testimony, we highlighted 3 different programs that DHS has had underway for a long time, and in some cases, this is not their first swing at this particular effort. So those old modernizations are still in flight, and DHS is still working diligently to address them.
I'll put a link to the testimony that you talked about at fedgovtoday.com, but this agile approach, I went back and looked. I did the first interview on any of my products about agile development in the federal government in 2009. What have we learned, and how far have we come in 14 years, Kevin? You look at this all across the civilian side of the federal government. I think we've talked about some DoD projects too in the past. Are we getting anywhere?
So this is not an instantaneous shift.
Sure.
Nor would you expect it to be.
Of course.
First, you're gonna have all of these big multi-year projects that are underway that you need to finish, mm-hmm. or wait for them to not quite finish, as we have seen all too often.
Yes.
So changing them over is not a instantaneous effort, and culture shift in the government is, again, like moving a glacier, mm-hmm. right? It's going to take years of effort to demonstrate, hey, we can do this, and this is the right way forward. There is a lot of momentum, mm-hmm. with the older methodologies, and frankly, we also probably don't have all the workforce skills to fully move over to Agile. We can't probably drop everything today and shift entirely over to this new methodology just because of that skills gap.
What do you think the skills gap is? Where are the areas that the government would need to fill in order to be able to make that swing final?
So Agile development requires personnel who are very, very good at interfacing with their peers, with their stakeholders, and with management. And those short sprints, as they are called in Agile, require constant iterations with the stakeholders. Why is this important? Whereas with the older waterfall methodology, you basically can be stuck in an office somewhere doing code for months, if not years, mm-hmm. without seeing the stakeholders or your hopefully you're seeing management more
That's
frequently
right.
than that. But so it's I think a shift in the way business is done. I don't think it's an insurmountable, oh, we need this skill or that skill. It's learning, okay, how do we do this new way where we fail fast or succeed early?
It sounds like mostly what you're talking about is a skills gap in the technology areas. Is there a skills gap in the acquisition field as well, or has the government gotten better or good at acquiring agile development pieces?
So, spot on, Francis. There are different ways that we need to acquire these big programs. Historically, again, a lot of those big efforts were either firm fixed price or cost plus, where they were paid a price and then add-ons happened as they went along. So another shift that is going on that you also heard about in the hearing is the shift more towards cloud-based services, where the department or the programs really don't have to worry about building the back-end infrastructure. That's all hosted centrally, whether by the government or by a big cloud provider. So that also reduces the amount of development needed to build an interface, because you're not worrying about all the back end as well. And it allows us to concentrate more on what the citizens or the employees will be using.
What is next? Who needs to do what in order to have success in the areas that you've just described?
Sure. So in our testimony statement, we talked about specific actions that needed to be taken for the reports that we cited. So in total, we had three different programs at DHS. First was the Financial Systems Modernization. Second was DHS's HEART program, which handles biometrics, fingerprints, and the like. And the third was a grants modernization program at FEMA. Collectively, DHS has done a good job addressing our recommendations. We made, across those three areas, a total of 19 recommendations. DHS, to their credit, has addressed 11 of them, and some of these reports are relatively recent. So they're working and they're doing their job. The bigger picture, though, of what DHS needs to do to address its legacy systems is getting a grasp on where the systems are, which at first blush may set you back, and you might think, what do you mean DHS doesn't know where all of its IT systems are? Well, there are a lot more IT-based products out there right now than most people regularly think of. With the Internet of Things, you might have a badge scanner on the door to your building that is networked. Does the CIO shop know about that system? Is that looped in? So making sure that the CIO shop in DHS has awareness of all those systems, and I think DHS does a pretty good job of this, but every agency could be better. Once you have that idea of where all the systems are, the next step is figuring out, okay, what's doing well and what do we need to think about modernizing? So figuring out and doing that assessment is second step. Third step is actually making the go, no-go on these systems and saying, okay, we have our scarce funds, we need to invest it here. And the government's motivations, by the way, are different than private sector. Private sector is entirely profit motivation. Government is, what can we do with the scant resources we have to best service the taxpayer or the mission, or to address other things like critical cybersecurity risks and the mission performance. So it's a balancing act. It's not quite the dollar trumps all.
We have about a minute left, Kevin. What do you see in the work that you did at DHS or the work that you've done across government? What do you see that agencies can do quickly to get some wins and be able to say to their internal customers, to their own people, we're on track, we're making progress?
So the easiest way to get quick wins is cybersecurity related. If there is a breach, that reflects poorly on everybody in the leadership, and everybody in the agency is impacted. We've seen breach after breach after breach, from OPM to all kinds of other issues where we don't necessarily want to experience those outcomes again. So I think if there is a cybersecurity risk, be aware of it and be the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. But part of that is also what I described earlier, knowing where your systems are. So figuring out, okay, what do we know and what might be out there that we don't know about, and trying to make sure that you have adequately captured those in your oversight.
Kevin Walsh, it's great to talk to you again. Thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you.